Hey there, we are live at Midtown Comics for a brand new feature we're trying out, Midtown's Marvel Mondays. Now, of course, Marvel has had a huge year and a very big October, relaunching a number of books and retooling them with the new Marvel Legacy banner. So there's a lot of really cool books. Of course, we've got a wealth of them right in front of us. So we're going to walk through the books. We're going to talk about them. We're going to show off some of the cool lenticular covers. We're going to show off some of the great interior art and talk about the story direction so that you guys know what books are the right books for you. So I've read through all of these lovely titles and I'm going to drop some knowledge for you. Hopefully have some fun along the way. So, of course, Marvel Legacy started with the Marvel Legacy one-shot. Now, the Marvel Legacy one-shot is very cool. We've got this nice lenticular cover here from Joe Quesada, the man himself, who has done so many cool things for the company. And this book is really a great love letter to what Marvel is. There's a lot of fun stuff here. There's a lot to enjoy. Jason Aaron basically takes you on a tour of the Marvel Universe, bringing you back, as you can see in our cover here from J. Scott Campbell, to the Avengers 1 million BC era, all the way through the current day. And there's a lot of great characters that, of course, have called themselves one of Earth's mightiest heroes over the years, and it's very fun. Flipping through here, you get some great art from Asad Ribic, and this is really just a fun one-shot if you're looking for just a little bit of everything Marvel. There's a great storyline. There's some stuff with Starbrand, which is super cool, because Starbrand's not like necessarily your top tier, most well known MCU guy. You know, he's a really cool character though, with a lot of depth. And Jonathan Hickman did some really cool work with him a couple years back on Avengers. So seeing him pop up again, and we get to see, of course, some fan favorite characters such as Loki. The one shot really has everything. My favorite aspect of it, by far, was right here, getting to see Sam Wilson, Jane Foster, and Riri Williams teaming up as, you know, the modern day incarnations of these legacy heroes, and really showing just how much Marvel has grown over time. There's a lot to enjoy here. And of course, this did come out a couple weeks ago, so many of you probably already know the huge return, but that has some crazy stuff. But honestly, even more than like the return that everybody's buzzing about, it's those last couple pages, those quiet pages, that get me really excited, because it harkens back to a sense of discovery and joy and whimsy that I grew up on, that I really got in with. Some characters I haven't seen in years. Some fun stuff going on here. But of course, it's a one shot, you know, it's one and done. It's easy to check out one book, but then you've got all these books in front of me, and you might not know which ones to check out. So we're going to talk about some of these titles. We're going to go one by one, go through them all. Starting us off, we've got Mark Waid's Avengers. Now, this does retain the original numbering of the Avengers, going to issue 672. Now, that's a lot of books, a lot of cool stuff, but that doesn't mean that you have to have read all of it. You know, you can jump right in with Avengers. You see this really cool homage cover, try to show that off, featuring some Mike Allred art, and of course, you see that it features, show the interior jacket, you can see the non-holographic version. You see that the High Evolutionary has returned, and that got me super pumped, because I just went on like a binge and I read all of the 90s Heroes for Hire stuff, and like that's a weird thing to like totally be checking out, but I love Heroes for Hire, so I read all of it. And in the 90s stuff, there's a lot of stuff with the High Evolutionary. Of course, he's this really weird character in Marvel, but he's kind of like a classic villain. He's messed around with the X-Men, he's faced off against like the Fantastic Four, and of course, the Avengers. So getting him in this book automatically adds a big top tier villain, and we get to see in this, it's the story is called Worlds Collide. We're dealing with Counter Earth. That's right, Counter Earth from the 90s, post hero, like Heroes Reborn, Heroes Return, all that stuff. And we get to see the champions teaming up with the Avengers, and this only makes sense because Mark Waid is of course writing both Champions and Avengers, and the Champions were former Avengers, so getting them into this book makes perfect sense. I love that we get to see Hercules teaming up with Amadeus Cho, because they're bros from like back in the day, and that makes me really happy. And everything about this book is super fun, really cool, and really accessible. Jesus Saiz does some great art that's easy to enjoy the story, and Mark Waid's words are lovely. Check out Avengers. It really has been a lot of fun so far. He's been on the book for about 2 years now, through all new, all different Avengers, now with regular Avengers, and getting him to play with the High Evolutionary, that's a real delight, a real treat for the fans. Now, the next book is Iron Fist. Of course, Iron Fist. Iron Fist is like, no lie, one of my favorite dudes in Marvel. Like, he's awesome. I've always liked him. I got super hooked on the Ed Brubaker, Matt Fraction run way back when. And then I've read everything that features him since then. Like, I think I've actually read pretty much every Iron Fist appearance of the last 15 years or so. Really cool stuff. And it's a great book. I love this homage cover because it shows off the return of Sabretooth. Some great stuff here. Of course, I just read a bunch of 90s Heroes for Hire, and in that you get to see the Marvel collections for it were really cool because they showed like a couple of team-ups and, you know, face-offs with Sabretooth, which I thought was awesome because then there's a cool, this is like a total junkie book. Like, this is like, if you're an Iron Fist fan, this is the book you want to read because not only does it reference Iron Fist actually facing off against Sabretooth, who was originally created for Iron Fist as an Iron Fist villain, but then he ended up traveling over to fighting Wolverine. So that's really cool in itself, but it also brings back another character that is integral to not just Iron Fist, but to Sabretooth, but is one of those guys that you don't always see, but I really liked. I don't want to tell you, it's not like it's some crazy, crazy spoiler, but it did bring a smile to my heart because he's a guy I've been waiting for years to see used properly, and I'm very excited for him to be in Iron Fist. Ed Brisson's doing a great job, and Mike Perkins' art is great as always, really captures that old school action vibe that you want from Iron Fist. And if you're a fan of the TV series, you got to check out the book because it's just so good, and it's such a great representation of the character. Some fun stuff here. Now, we had Iron Fist. We've got one of his teammates now. We've got Jessica Jones. That's right. Very cool, very creepy cover because it's got the Purple Man back, and the Purple Man is kind of like arguably the worst person in all of Marvel. Like, let's be real here. Purple Man is a terrible person. He is not the kind of guy that you want to have to face off against. I actually was first introduced to the character through Brian Michael Bendis on Avengers, well, New Avengers to be appropriate, because the first time you ever see the New Avengers forming their team, you see Purple Man trying to mind control Luke Cage and have him do all these horrible things, and it was a good follow-up to Alias, and this is an even better follow-up to Alias. This has, of course, been going for about a year now. We're on issue 13 of Jessica Jones. Some really great stuff here, and I love how this book opens because this is some cool stuff that you can really only do in comics, where you get these nice shots of the Marvel Universe, and I like this because he shows a little bit of everybody, so you can see like Typhoid Mary, you can see Luke Cage, some very good likenesses here from Michael Gaydos. But then it expands. And then not only that, but then it expands again. And this is like really good dialogue that Bendis is writing here. Of course, he created the character, he knows the character so well, and as a survivor of abuse, she just talks about how she's gone through this really perilous journey of self-discovery. Some good stuff here, and this is like a little thing, but it's the little things that are really making me excited about these Marvel Legacy books. They actually make reference to Avengers issue 200, and I can't say what happened in Avengers 200 because it's one of those really skeevy stories, but bringing Miss Marvel, or at the time she was Miss Marvel, Carol Danvers, into this book again, and having her actually mention it, even if it's a throwaway line, is really good because it shows depth and it shows a love of continuity. And Avengers 200 is one of the like weirdest things you'll ever read, and it's kind of like terrifying in a completely different way. And we get the armadillo, all these cool things. I like that. I like seeing these random throwaway lines, these throwaway characters, but the consequences for this book are huge, and I cannot understate it. If you've never read Jessica Jones, I never read her actual book. Shh, don't tell anybody, until this issue, and it was great. It was really easy to get into. If you've seen the TV show, just jump in. It's really easy, and it's got the Purple Man, so you'll already know who you're dealing with. Good stuff here. Now, of course, we've got a lot of stuff with these MCU characters, and the latest addition to the MCU canon are the Inhumans, and the latest issue of Royals plays around with the Inhuman royal family. Some very cool stuff here. Al Ewing has been having a lot of fun with this book. I really have enjoyed what he's done, and he's taken the royal family of the Inhumans on a completely different journey than you would expect. And now we get to see some really great stuff happening. We have Javier Rodriguez on art, and if you read Doctor Strange and the Sorcerers Supreme, you know that he's amazing. And if you didn't, you missed out. Maybe you read Spider-Woman. Spider-Woman was awesome. He's done a lot of really cool stuff. And here we get to see them exploring the roots of the Inhumans. Now, of course, we know that the Inhumans came from the Kree, right? The Kree come to Earth, they mess with the planet, all that stuff. But who made the Kree? Kind of some cool stuff here. Kind of like Prometheus, esque, where it's like, who created us? What is our purpose? Stuff like that. And I love that quest for the Inhumans to find purpose. And it's really fun and it's really great. And they've actually done a really great job of building up these characters. Gorgon has become one of the coolest characters in the Inhuman mythos, largely due to this book, because Gorgon's always been like there. He's always been like your bro. He's always like the guy you can rely on. But honestly, in the last couple years, his stock has risen like tenfold with some cool stuff. And Royals really does a great job of that. Really happy with the direction of this book, and it's really accessible. Like I said, if you haven't been reading it, at the back of the book, all the books have this, but this one is particularly well handled. There's a little 3-page feature at the back of every book that's called Marvel Primer Pages. Now, there are 3-page history of the characters. In the case of the Royals book, it actually just explains for you a lot of stuff from the first story arc. So it's very good because if you didn't read it, now you can check it out. And it's very easy to jump in. So if you haven't read it already, you never read Inhumans, read Royals, you just jump in. Dive in. Stan Lee had a philosophy that every single comic is somebody's first. And with those Marvel Primer pages, it really helps to serve that by making it even easier than it already is. Now, this is cool. This is one of those returns I was not expecting with Marvel Legacy. We've got Spirits of Vengeance. Now, this is awesome. We've got the lenticular cover here, of course, to the original giant-size X-Men. But in here, we've got a nice little flash of art as well. And Spirits of Vengeance is all of those 90s grimdark, angsty, satanic characters in one book that are the characters that don't always have their own book. They don't always need their own book, but you want them every now and then. You want to know that they're around. And so we get to see Victor Gischler, who, if you guys haven't read Victor Gischler's Marvel work, he has done all of the weirdest mystical books over the last, few years. And he's done stuff. He did stuff with the X-Men. When the X-Men were fighting vampires, that was all Victor Gischler. When they were doing Fear Itself and they were fighting Dracula himself, Victor Gischler. He's been doing a really cool job, really having a lot of fun. And in this book, we get to see a lot of focus on Ghost Rider. And that's awesome. And I'm not talking Robbie Reyes. I love Robbie Reyes. But this is the actual Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider. You get to see him in action. And not only do you get Ghost Rider, but you get Damon Hellstrom, who is this, crazy dude of unquantifiable power. But we get, and this is, he's on the cover. I'm not calling this a spoiler. If you want to say I'm spoiling you, then, wow. Okay, I guess. But we get to see Blade. And Blade is a character that I have loved for years. I really loved Mighty Avengers by Al Ewing because it used Blade in a really cool and creative way. And now it's been a while since we've seen him in the pages of his own book where he gets to take prominence. And Spirits of Vengeance looks like it's going to be some major stuff for Blade. Very cool, very exciting because he's awesome. And also because every time I think of him, I think of Wesley Snipes and the movies, and they're so cool, and I love it. And it's really exciting stuff to see Blade back in the books. Then as we continue, we've got Venom, and of course this is an homage to Brand New Day, a very famous story for a lot of Spider fans. I got into the Spider-Man books with Brand New Day. I was originally an Ultimate Spider-Man reader, and I got in with Brand New Day, so I like seeing the homage to the original Steve McNiven cover there, and showed off their proper. Very cool stuff here. Very fun. We've been having a roller coaster ride with Mike Costa on this Venom book because we've gotten to see so many different variations on the character, and of course we get to see Lee Price himself in prison because in Venom 150, readers will remember that he lost the Venom suit. Eddie Brock is Venom now. So now we still get Lee Price lingering around in the prison system because, the prison system's crazy. Can you imagine what going to prison like in Marvel must be? That must be the worst thing. And this actually gives you a little insight into that, so I appreciate that. But my favorite thing about this book, maybe I'm totally biased because I said I got in with Ultimate Spider-Man, right? We've got Mark Bagley on art. And Mark Bagley drawing Venom is like the coolest thing ever. He's one of the best Venom artists of all time, one of the best Spider-Man artists, but really with Venom because he really defined a lot of his look in the 90s. And getting to see Eddie Brock drawn by him, it's awesome. It's super cool. We get to see some crazy stuff that you expect to see in a Venom book. And I think that this is a book that will make old fans really happy, as well as bring in a lot of new people, because this isn't, an abstract book to get into. This isn't some crazy high-flying adventure. This is what you expect out of Venom. And I just remembered who's on the last page, and that would be a spoiler, but oh my God, the last page of this book is great because it brings back a character who, he's been around. He's, been fighting off a couple characters, fighting some unbeatable foes, and I must say, seeing him in this book makes not only me happy, but I know it makes a lot of fans happy who have been craving a good return in this book. Some great stuff. Gotta love it. Now, we're going to hit a couple X-Men books. Now, the X-Men franchise is near and dear to my heart as well. I told you I first read Ultimate Spider-Man, right? Well, it wasn't just Ultimate Spider-Man. It was Ultimate X-Men that hooked me in. And the X-Men are forever near and dear to my heart. Make me so happy. And so I'm loving the new X-Men books ever since Resurrection a few months back, where they really rejuvenated a lot of the line. And one of the books that's been doing a really good job is Iceman. Now, I never thought Iceman would be getting an ongoing series. I'll be honest with you, because Iceman is one of those guys, I always liked him. I got in with Ultimate X-Men. He was there from the ground level, some cool stuff. I liked him in the movies. He was always fun. But in the books, it always felt like Iceman was kind of, put off to the side. And in the last few years, Marvel has really done a good job of highlighting the character. And you can also see by this cover, I'll show you this one for clarity, is that we get the return of the champions. Now, we have, of course, the modern-day Mark Waid champions, but here we get the original champions, one of Marvel's classic books, and getting to see them all together is really a lot of fun because, like I just said, we got Johnny Blaze. We have Johnny Blaze in 2 books right now. That's like some great stuff. Sometimes we'll go on a dry spell and we won't get any Johnny Blaze. He's in 2 books right now. Very fun, very cool. I want to flip through. We get a lot of insight into the life of Iceman. Of course, he's got a lot of fun. Iceman's always been a fun character. And he's kind of, getting familiar with the world and having some fun. And we get to see some cool adventures here. We get to see, I'm a sucker for Hercules. And maybe it's because I did just read that 90s Heroes for Hire, which has a lot of Hercules. But seeing him popping up in a couple different books makes me really happy. And I love what they're doing with this Iceman book. Cindy Grace is having a lot of fun, really doing a great job of getting to know the character. And I really love this cover. This cover makes me really happy. The lenticular cover is really cool for this one. Really, really makes me happy. Then to close us off for that week's release, we've got XMen Gold, issue number 13 from Mark Guggenheim. And Mike Mayhew is on interiors here. Now, maybe you guys aren't familiar, but Mike Mayhew does not do interior art very often. So getting him on the interior art for this is super awesome. And we get to see a classic X-Men trope. Let me get to the page. The X-Men playing baseball. Oh, it warms my heart. It makes me so happy. This is the X-Men to me. This is what I want out of this book. And Mark Guggenheim's really been doing a good job bringing the X-Men back to a place that we're all really familiar with. This kind of status quo and the world building that we love. And we get to see this is a crossover between X-Men Gold and X-Men Blue, which I'll get to in a second. But it's also just very cool to see all the X-Men playing together. We get to see some cool quips between Jimmy Hudson, who is the ultimate. Here we go with the Ultimate Universe again. The Ultimate Universe Wolverine, who has now been transplanted into this world, and some very cool stuff here. I'm just having a lot of fun, and I'll talk about it more in a second. But they brought back some villains and some characters I haven't seen in a while, and it's been crazy. So, of course, that was the X-Men Gold issue, and here's the X-Men Blue, and you see him front and center. It's Mojo. Mojo's back, and I hate Mojo so much. He is possibly my most despised villain in the entire Marvel Universe. Mojo drives me up a wall. And so I was very excited to see him popping up in this book because I know that it means that he's going to get punched in the face a lot. And that makes me really happy. I like seeing Mojo only because I know he's going to get punched in the face. And Cullen Bunn and Jorge Molina are, of course, on X-Men Blue, and we get to see them going through a lot of crazy adventures through all of Mojo's hologram projections, because it's Mojo. You know, Mojo runs his weird TV empire, always out for ratings, always out to, you know, milk the mutant menace. And between this issue and X-Men Gold, we get to see a lot of really fun meta commentary on not only just like the X-Men, but the comic book business in general. And that's really fun because that shows me that Marvel's actually really having fun with these books. It shows that they are listening to fans because they're putting in the fans as this cute little quippy banter in here. And it's very cool stuff, and it's really great. And the X-Men books are like in the healthiest place they've been in years. I mean, I really liked a lot of the X-Men stuff during you know, when they did Second Coming and when they did Messiah Complex, and that era was really big for me and like some of my favorite X-Men books. And it's really great because I really think that this is some of the best stuff I've seen in years since that time period that I really love. And of course, it's bringing back a lot of classic 90s characters like Mojo, like Longshot, who you can also see on the cover here. And that makes me really happy because it shows depth. It shows that they are diving into this. You know, Marvel's got thousands of characters. I love when they dive in and they go, you know what? We haven't used this toy in a while. Let's play with this toy. Very fun stuff. Now, finishing off our world of X-Men, we've got the brand new issue of All New Wolverine from Tom Taylor. Now, Tom Taylor has been on this book for a couple years, and you can see this great homage cover. And right there, that's my man. That's my man, Daken. You don't mess with Daken. Daken's amazing. And I am so happy to see him popping up in a book. Daken's really great, and Tom Taylor and Juan Cabal does the art on this, and he's awesome. He's doing some really cool art here, really fun. Like there's so much detail in his art, and there's so much that like I really appreciate what he's doing. And I can't show you certain pages because like they're total spoiler pages. But some really cool stuff here. We get to see a lot of stuff with Laura. We got to see a lot of stuff with Gabby. And what makes me happy is that they're bringing up some of Laura's past. And I really like the new X-Men run by Craig Kyle and Chris Yost. That's one of my favorite runs in like all of comic books ever. One of my favorite runs. And that and their X-Force stuff did a lot for the character of X-23, who of course is now Wolverine. So seeing that stuff brought to the forefront makes me really happy. I also really like, we got in the Marvel Primer pages right here in the back, we get to see like some passing reference to that era, which made me really happy because I really liked the team during that time. That made me really happy. This book makes me happy because it's referencing the stories that I love, and it's bringing back the characters I haven't seen used in a while. Daken is a great character. He's one of my favorite characters that in the Wolverine like mythos, you know, like his own little corner of the world. I love Daken, and I'm very happy to see him popping back up. Daken and Laura, they're a team you don't want to mess with. Now, of course, we've got amazing Spider-Man, and this book really is simply amazing. Dan Slott's been on this for a mega run. I mean, the dude's written more Spider-Man than literally anybody ever, so that's very impressive. Very cool book here. See that wonderful Alex Ross art. There are two covers to Amazing Spider-Man that both feature Alex Ross art. Here, I'll show you the other one. This is the main cover. Really cool that you get Alex Ross on two different covers. Amazing. And not only that, but then you open up the book, and who do you find inside but the art of Stuart Amonin. Really cool. Also, really love that they made a little joke about the asking about my feminist agenda thing that went on a while back. That's really funny. And it's got Mockingbird. I love Mockingbird. I got really big into the Hawkeye Mockingbird book after they did New Avengers The Reunion, and then they did Hawkeye and Mockingbird, and I've followed the character around wherever she goes. And I'm very excited to see that she's had some staying power in the Spider-Man books. And we get to see a return to a bit more of a familiar take on Spider-Man. You know, a lot of people maybe jet flying, Peter Parker wasn't for them. Maybe seeing him as this millionaire wasn't quite the Spidey they grew up with. Well, now he's back to basics, and he's the storyline's called The Fall of Parker, and we really get to see how he's being humbled and brought back to this place where maybe you're more familiar with it. Maybe, it's Peter he's down and out. He's got a lot of stuff going on with him, and he can't process it. It's kind of the old school Peter Parker approach. I mean, like half the book he's laying on the couch. Not actually half the book. That's an exaggeration. But like, you know, like I showed this page, it's about him being kind of an oaf, you know, kind of being like, oh, life is tough. And he's thrown himself into the job of being Spider-Man, which you know always spells trouble for Peter, because every time he neglects Peter, Spider-Man's life goes well, but Peter's, you know, doing terrible. And then if he pursues being Peter, then all of a sudden he's not enough of a hero. That dynamic that he's always trying to find, Dan Slott nails it here. And it's really going to be a lot of fun. I have a great feeling about this arc because it's Stuart Immonen and Dan Slott. Those are two juggernauts in the industry. And they're on one book. How can you not immediately fall in love? Now, something completely different. We've got Gwenpool. And Gwenpool is really fun, really cool. I really loved when they brought her in through the backup stories and Howard the Duck, which was really fun. And then they gave her her own holiday special and all that stuff. And now we get to see Christopher Hastings has been having a lot of fun on this. Show off the lenticular cover. A lot of homages to the Fantastic Four. I really appreciate that. I grew up on a lot of Fantastic Four. And Guri Haru is on art here, and it's really fun. It's really silly, you know. This is a great book to hand off to somebody who wants a bit more of a lighthearted romp. And if you think that like Deadpool is breaking the fourth wall, like read Gwenpool, because she's like not only like breaking the fourth wall, she's like jumping through it. Like she's really going on some crazy adventures, and it's really fun, and I really appreciate that. Also because they do things that you can't do in other mediums. They do things you can only do in a comic book. You know, they really play with the format of a comic book. They play with your expectations, and I think that's great. And it's really fun, it's really creative, and it's really easy to get into. You don't need some deep knowledge of the Marvel Universe. She's got it for you. That's her whole thing, is she knows everything in Marvel, and she's making jokes about it. Really fun, really cool. Easy way to jump into the book. If you haven't been reading Gwenpool, give it a shot, because it's really a lot of fun. Really great. Now, another course correction, another crazy turn. We've got Falcon. We've got the first issue of Falcon as Falcon. Of course, Sam Wilson's been flying around as Captain America these last couple years, but now he's in the pages of his own book under his original moniker. Very cool stuff here. I remember, like, I wasn't big into Falcon for a long time. Like, I never really cared much about the character. And then there was, like, this 1-2 punch that, like, just completely knocked me back with the Sam Wilson Captain America book that I absolutely loved, and the movies. And they really made me see this cool character that I hadn't really ever taken a real look at. And now the high-flying avian Avenger is back in his own book. Very cool stuff here. We get to see Rodney Barnes doing the words for this book, and of course you'll know the name from Boondocks, which I love. Boondocks, very fun, very inappropriate, but very cool series. And this is, of course, a great book, and it's taking a look at some of the real world implications of a character like Falcon. It shows him kind of on the streets and what he means to not only the entire Marvel Universe, but what he means to the Black community. And I think that's really important. That's a really good issue for them to tackle with this book. And I think that it's great. And the character, the new Patriot, is really cool. I've like enjoyed every incarnation of Patriot over the years. I was a big fan of Young Avengers, and I really like what they're doing with this new kid. I really like where this direction is going for this book. And we get to see some great stuff, some cool splash pages here. And it's Falcon in the pages of his own book. I'm really happy to see a character definitely deserving of prominence getting that prominence. You know, he's a good character, and he's got some great stories to tell, and I'm very excited for Rodney Barnes to take us on some adventures. Now, as we continue down, we've got Defenders. I'm wearing the shirt. I'm not wearing the same shirt, but, you know, a Defender shirt. I love the Defenders. I love the Heroes for Hire. I love the street-level Marvel stuff that is completely unique. There's nothing else like it. And Brian Michael Bendis has done such a great job on this book. Let me find some pretty pages. Well, they're all pretty pages, but some flashy pages from Dave Marquez, who does an amazing job. This is probably the best artwork I've ever seen him do in his entire career. He's done some amazing work. He, of course, did Ultimate Spider-Man. He, of course, did, Civil War II. And he did, I mean, even back a couple years ago, he did a Fantastic Four original graphic novel, Fantastic Four Season 1. That was really cool. But this is the best art I've ever seen from him. And it makes me really happy because I was originally a little concerned with Defenders. I was like, okay, Brian Michael Bendis is great, but he does like a lot of superhero stuff, and he doesn't always do these gritty stories anymore. You know, we get Jessica Jones, but I don't know if he's going to bring that same integrity to Defenders, that same darkness kind of. And they definitely have. It's very cool, but it's not like it's not grimdark. It's not just, you know, there for the sake of it. There's some really good stories here, and it reminds me of Jessica Jones. It reminds me of those early issues of New Avengers where you really got to see Brian Michael Bendis playing with the world of crime. And of course, he has an extended history on all these characters. Some great stuff here. Check out Defenders if you aren't. Now we're getting close to the end. We've got the brand new issue of Despicable Deadpool. And Deadpool's Deadpool. Deadpool's great. He is completely ridiculous. We'll show off this interior art here. Of course, this is an homage cover to the first appearance of the Punisher. And the story arc is heartbreaking. It's truly heartbreaking because it's called Deadpool Kills Cable. And that's like one of the top bromances in the Marvel Universe. You don't want to see them fighting, but it's because Deadpool is looking out for his family. Secret Empire was not okay for him, like at all. I don't know if you read the Secret Empire issues that were dealing with Deadpool, but he was not okay, and a lot of really bad things happened to him because he was loyal to Steve Rogers, and he kind of got duped. You know, things didn't work out, and now he has to take on Cable in order to try to course correct his life and try to make things better. And I'm a big Cable fan. I really like the Dwayne Swarzynski series that came out after Second Coming. You can tell that time period that I really like a lot of these stories. I'm sorry, after Messiah Complex, before Second Coming. And really cool to see him getting some prominence in these books and some great adventures. There's like a couple gory moments in this that are like kind of crazy, and I'm really curious to see what happens to Deadpool next, because this is clearly just the beginning of something absolutely outrageous. Anytime you put Deadpool and Cable into the same sentence, you know you're going to be happy. And especially seeing the two of them together as foes, we haven't seen a lot of that lately. It's been a long time since we've seen Deadpool as a proper villain. And now we get to see, him doing some despicable things, as it were. And to close us off, we've got Uncanny Avengers. Very cool stuff here. Highlight that cover. Flip to the inside to give you a better look. And Jim Zub does something that it's not even on this cover. It's on the other cover, and I got to show you. It's Beast and Wonder Man. Beast is by far my favorite Marvel character. In the entire pantheon of heroes of Marvel characters, Beast is near and dear to my heart. Maybe I'm biased because his name is Henry. But I also think he's an amazing character, and I think that this is really fun, and this is what a lot of fans have been wanting. We've wanted a lot of these fun stories and these classic team-ups. So we get to see, flipping through here, we get to see Beast and Wonder Man teaming up, this great double-page spread showing off their lives and kind of the crazy journeys they've been on. I mean, Beast has mutated like 5 times. Wonder Man has gone from like a dude to being pure ionic energy to being trapped inside of somebody else's body to now being reborn. All these crazy things, and it does a really good job of bringing you up to speed on their history, but also having a fun adventure. And it makes me really happy seeing these two teaming up. Really great. Show off a couple of these pages. And we also have some stuff going on with Rogue and Wasp that is going to have some major implications for the Avengers going forward, because, as you can see on the back here, we've got the Avengers No Surrender storyline right on the horizon. Some big crossover stuff going on here that's going to feature a lot of books. And it looks like, I mean, we've got Rogue front and center right there. So if you want to know what's going on with Rogue before No Surrender, you have to read Uncanny Avengers, because Jim Zub has been doing a really cool job with the character, and we're going to have a lot of fun in this book. And also, once again, there's some love for the Fantastic Four in here, and that makes me really happy. I'm really happy to see, I mean, look, you could see the iconic Four right there. We get to see some actual cool stuff really going on with Johnny Storm, and I'm super curious to see where this goes. I'm really excited for the Marvel 2-in-1 book that's coming up, and I'm honestly just so happy that these books are all good. They're different flavors, you know? They're not all, I'm not going to tell you that every single book is for everybody. I want to tell you that, and maybe you're like me where you do enjoy every single book, and good on you. But these books also offer so many different stories for so many different people, you know? You can hand them off to friends and family, and it makes it more accessible. And I love that these books are really taking a hard eye on doing some great quality, on making the fans happy, on bringing back a lot of these characters that maybe we haven't seen in a while and bringing them to a new light. And Marvel Legacy is awesome. And so we're going to talk about these books. If you guys like this, let us know. Comment in the comments, tell us good things, tell me that you're happy, and tell us what you want to see, because we really do want to talk about these Marvel Legacy books, and we want you guys to check them out because they're really fantastic, and there's some great stories here. So thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.